Okay, question 13. Question 13 says define kinetic energy and apply the relationship between particles, kinetic energy, mass, and speed. And the equation is Ke equals half mass v squared. Now, the kinetic energy has a symbol Ke and it is measured in joules. Kinetic energy is the energy due to motion. If an object is at motion or in motion, it has kinetic energy. Now, the factors that kinetic energy depend on is the mass of the object and the speed of the object. You can see the factors in the equation. If the mass increases, if the mass increases, the kinetic energy increases by the same amount. So, for example, if the mass increases to double, the kinetic energy will also double. If the mass triples, then the kinetic energy will triple as well. If the mass is halved means that it is decreased to a half, then the kinetic energy will also decrease to half. So the relationship between the mass and the kinetic energy is directly proportional. What happens to the mass, the same thing happens to the kinetic energy. But the relationship between the velocity and the kinetic energy is directly proportional to the squared of the velocity. The kinetic energy is directly proportional to the squared of the velocity. That means if the velocity decreases, then the kinetic increases, the kinetic energy, if the velocity increases, then the kinetic energy increases by the square of that amount. So for example, if it increases double, the kinetic energy will increase 4 times. If it increases if it becomes 3 times its amount, then the kinetic energy will become 9 times its amount. That's because the kinetic energy is dependent on the square of the velocity. So if the velocity becomes twice its amount, the kinetic energy will be 4 times its amount. If the velocity becomes 3 times its amount, then remember we have squared, then the kinetic energy will become 9 times its amount. If the velocity decreases to half, if the velocity decreases to half, remember we have squared. Half squared is 1/4. The kinetic energy decreases by 1/4, and so on. If the velocity decreases by 1/3, if it decreases by 1/3, remember we have squared, the kinetic energy decreases by 1/9 because 1/3 squared is 1/9. Okay, let's get some questions. Question 1 says, what is the mass of a ball that has a kinetic energy of 2.5 joules and moving at 5 meters per second? Okay, this is not the unit for velocity. Time. Kinetic energy equals half mass v squared. Now, given or the unknown here is the mass. The mass is the unknown, not the kinetic energy, but no problem. We have the calculator, we can solve. Given is the kinetic energy. You can see kinetic energy 2.5 joules and moving at 5 meters per second. Given also is the velocity. We will substitute each value by its amount. And the unknown, we shift solve it on the calculator. Kinetic energy is 2.5. I put 2.5. Half. Mass is the unknown, so I put it x in the calculator. V squared, which is 5 squared. On the calculator, you can do the shift solve thing, or if you are good at math, you can rearrange. Equals to 1/2. The mass is the unknown, so multiplied by x multiplied by 5 squared. Don't forget to put the multiplication sign between the values and then shift calc equal. So you can see that the answer is 0.2. the mass is equal to 0.2 kilogram. So it is this one right here. Now don't tell me, Miss, this is 0.20, this is the same as 0.2. No matter how many zeros we put after the decimal point, they are all equal the same. طيب. A truck of mass 4,000 kilogram traveling at a constant speed of 50 meters per second. So given is the mass, given is the speed. What is the kinetic energy? He wants me to find Ke. Very simple. No need to even rearrange. Half mass V squared. Kinetic energy is the unknown. So no need to rearrange. No need to shift solve. خلاص مباشرة حطي بعد اللي يساوي الأرقام اللي بعد اللي يساوي وحلي نص في الماس اللي هي 4000 V which is 115 squared on the calculator. Half, oh no, half times 4,000 times 15, and the 15 is squared. Well, you can see that the kinetic energy is 450,000. Ke is 450,000 joules. No, oh my God, no answer. What should I do? Oh no. Look at the first two numbers. Well, the first two numbers are only mentioned in the first option. This is called a scientific notation, and you can turn the number into a scientific notation by moving the decimal point at the end of the number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 places to the left. So it becomes 4.5 times 10 to the power of 5 joules. All right. Another question. A ball is rolling initially with a velocity v. If the velocity is doubled, what change will happen to the kinetic energy? Remember the relationship between velocity and Ke. We said it is directly proportional to the squared. So what happens to v, you square it and that will happen to Ke. So for example here, the velocity was doubled, but don't forget we have what on the v? We have a squared. So what will happen to the Ke? It will become 2 squared its amount, which is 4 Ke. So the kinetic energy will become 4 times its amount. Which of the following examples shows kinetic energy? Well, that's chemical, that's gravitational potential energy, that's elastic potential energy, river flowing down a hill. Okay, it's moving, so it has kinetic energy.